New data released today by the Knesset Research and Information Center shows a troubling rise in emigration from Israel. The report finds that nearly half of those who have left Israel since 2022 are between the ages of 20 and 44, the core of the country's workforce, and that Israelis with academic degrees, particularly advanced degrees, are leaving at disproportionately high rates. We spoke with Professor Dan Ben-David, President of the Shoresh Institution for Socio-Economic Research and a Professor of Economics at Tel Aviv University. We are speaking with Professor Dan Ben-David, President of the Shoresh Institution for Socio-Economic Research and a Professor of Economics at Tel Aviv University. So why is it such a problem that a growing number of Israelis are leaving the country?
Aside from the fact it's unpleasant to know that more people want to leave than return, the Israeli economy is primarily based on a very small number of people. Only about 10% of the employed persons are in high tech. And these guys alone are responsible for half of our exports, 20% of our GDP. In fact, it's just 6% were really high-tech occupations in high-tech. If you add to them all of the physicians who basically determine the quality of healthcare that we have, and the people, the research faculty in the universities who teach the physicians and the engineers and computer science and so on, this country has 10 million people, but all those three groups together are less than 300,000, which means that if you lose several tens of thousands of that very highly skilled and highly educated group, you're basically losing the people who are keeping Israel in the developed world economically, healthcare-wise, and in knowledge terms. So it's a big deal. Now, are we losing them? We haven't, I don't think, crossed a critical mass yet, but we have a major problem because we've been bleeding Israelis for quite a while. More have left than have returned for many years now. Now, the recent data shows a big uptick in 2023 when the war began and the political turmoil that began earlier in the year, and then 2024, which was a war year. One of the major things that kind of distinguishes the data, however, is that the majority of the people who left were actually Israelis who became Israelis but were born abroad. And in this case, primarily from the Soviet Union and Ukraine. They left there and came here, and then they left here. But even if you net them out, and this is the important part, even if you net them out and you look at just native-born Israelis, there was a huge increase, 62% more left in 2024 than the average for 2009, 2022, which was relatively constant during those years. And the gap between those who left and those who returned, the native-born Israelis, was high. It was 43% more left than returned on average between 2009 and 2022. And this gap rose fourfold to 160% more left than returned. So it's a problem when you take into account that the majority of these are young in the 30s and 40s, and they're relatively educated.
Is this what we call in popular parlance a brain drain?
It's looking like that, yeah. It's looking like this would be a brain drain. Again, we have, it's the numbers themselves are not large. It's the direction that's a problem, and it's concerning.
And do we know the reasons they're leaving?
I think the reasons that many of them give, and here it's more your field than my field, when they're interviewed, but it stems, the big jump in Israelis leaving happened in 2023, which are basically people that left in the first 9 months of the year rather than before the war, but after the political, basically the judicial coup attempt, and many, for them, it was the sign that we're heading in the wrong direction and left, and then came the war and even more left. In 2024 was a slight increase over 2023 in terms of the number that left. This is a country, that had a lot of hope in the future, And the direction that we're headed, currently headed, I should say, it's still possible to change directions, but our current direction scares a lot of people that may be a continuation of what is currently an unsustainable trajectory.
What then is the solution, in your opinion? How do we stop this?
We have to fix the country, a really minor thing like that. But we actually have probably the best opportunity that we've ever had ever since. I mean, I've started looking at Israeli data only in the past almost 30 years now. As an academic economist, my focus had always been on other things, but the trend, the direction that Israel's been taking is unsustainable, and I've been focusing on that. But the responses that I'd always gotten until recently, until the past few years, were, when push comes to shove, we always, when our back is to the wall, we always fix things at the last moment. Well, this past 4 years basically have shown that this is it. I mean, we've seen the future, and we've received a glimpse of where we're headed. And we have an election this year. It's the most important election that we've ever had in Israel. And it's an opportunity to shift directions and show that it is possible to come together and deal with the main issues. So first of all, it would give hope. But second of all, they need to focus on the most important things. And probably the most important, the game changers, we have the worst education system in the developed world. In fact, we have 4 education systems teaching children to live in 4 separate countries rather than in one. So aside from the fact that that's a problem, the level of education that they receive, the children in Israel receive in core subjects that prepare them for a competitive global economy, Israel is at the bottom of the developed world, and that's not even because of the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox, because the boys don't study the material and don't take the exams. Had they taken exams, it would be worse. So we need to fix this. We need to basically upgrade in a major way the core curriculum for all of Israel's children. We have some of the best universities in the world still, so we don't have to import knowledge. We just need that knowledge to reach our kids before it's too late. But have it reach all of the children, no more exceptions, and that's where the politics comes in. We can no longer allow the Haredi politicians to deprive their children of the tools to work in a modern society and to understand what a modern democracy is. We have a problem today explaining to people, or people are asking, we won the election, so why are you bothering us? They don't understand the difference between majority rule and tyranny of the majority. Majority can't do everything at once, but they don't have a clue about that because they never studied it before. So the game changer here is to do a massive overhaul, basically, in my opinion, close down the current education system, open a new one system for all the children. It doesn't mean that you don't have schools with material beyond the core that reflects Haredi lifestyles, religious lifestyles, Arab lifestyles, Jewish lifestyles that are not religious or cultural or sport or science, reflects the community. But the core has to be the same. There's one Israel, there's one economic market, there's one democracy, and these kids have to learn what it is, and we have to reach them soon, because half the kids today in Israel are receiving a third world education, and they belong to the fastest growing parts of the population, which makes this untenable when they grow up.
If we take the optimistic approach, and there is a significant change in the course this country is going, partly due to the upcoming elections, which you mentioned, isn't it the fact that the underlying demographic trends in different sectors mean that even a turnaround will only be temporary?
Well, that's the thing. You can't just focus on the demographics, because if the demographics are left alone, yes, our fate has been determined. I don't think it has, because the big game changer, as I said, is education. One of the things that we see is that people who are more educated in general in the world, not just in Israel, we're not inventing the wheel here, tend to have less children. And we can see it in Israel itself. When you look among the Arabs in Israel, the Christian Arabs, who are the more educated, have less than 2 children per family. The Muslims, with a growing middle class and in understanding of the importance of education, their fertility rates are in a free fall for the past 20 years. There are 2.8 children per family today, but they're on their way down. So in general, education affects fertility rates, but it does more than that. It also enables you, if it's a good education, to question everything. It doesn't mean go back on everything you learn, but it also means do not take everything for granted. Question your leaders. Ask them why they're saying what they're saying. Understand the difference between facts and opinions, not to mention alternative facts and lies. These are important things, but the moment you start questioning, then the demographics takes another turn in this direction. So it's not a given where we're headed. And even if you have a lot of, birth rates of Haredim are nearly 7, or 6.8 children per family, where nearly everybody else in Israel is around 2. The Muslims said are 2.8, but on the way down. The religions, non-Haredi, have 4, but many of them stop becoming religious. They lose almost half of their, half of the kids who are religious Jews at the age of 15. 47% are no longer religious Jews, with the majority of them becoming either traditional, either less religious in that sense, or even secular, go all the way. So the moment you're exposed to other things, you have choices in life. And those choices, you're not going to have the same kind of a secular or religious or Haredi person in the future. They're going to be people, hopefully, who question their leaders.
Professor Dan Ben David.